Yeah, okay. So let me start like this. All right. I still got to check what the next topic is here. But Mondays are very tough for me. And it's not about the work. You know, it's unfortunately for me, it's the reality of having to go and, well, not having to go, but I go into the real world over the weekends, right? And I see how the rest of the world is functioning. Hey, where's this thing? See, I have to charge this thing at some point. I see how the rest of the world is functioning. And then I have to come here on Monday mornings and spend my week here with people that I do depending on others. I did, eh? And then I have to see people who are struggling to come to terms with the realities of everyday life, you know, and just do not engage, just refuse to engage with everyday life, but yet at the same time as refusing to engage with everyday life, you know, in a manner that the rest of the world has to just deal with it, you know, are expecting the best that life has to offer at the same time. And then find themselves in this situation that they're in now and battle to understand why they're in this situation. And then at the same time, not only battling to understand why they find themselves in this situation, are not prepared to make the changes that are required in order to go out and function. Still expecting the best of everything. You know, and I've quoted Akumalo on this before, and I'm going to quote it again, you know, expecting a soft life, you know. You want the soft life, but you know, you want all the things that the wealthy have got. You know, you want the beautiful home, you know, in terms of some of our esteemed and honorable government officials, you want the 65 million rand house. You know, you want the ML63 AMG. You know, what's the latest word I just saw? You want the slay queens. You know, you want the $10,000 bottles of champagne. You want to fly in the private jet. You want to visit other countries and experience other cultures and see things, you know. And, you know, that's what you want. You're not even thinking about a job, how you're going to get a job. You're not thinking about how you're going to get to work. You're not thinking about how you're going to clothe yourself. You're not thinking about any of these things. You know, you got the things that you want the things that you want, but you're not prepared to do what is required in order to get to the place that you want. Now, it's an open forum. Explain to me how you're going to get to these achievements or to these things that you want and smoke crystal. Well, I don't know, because apparently in the mindset of people, yeah, it's possible. And at the same time, when you get confronted on issues, then you want to throw your toys out the cot, you know, and you want to dictate to people who are moving forward with their lives. You want to dictate to people that are at least a couple of steps ahead of you in this recovery game on how you should recover when you have been unable to recover on your own ever. Ever. And you know that you're unable because you're sitting here. That's how you know. If you were recovering and you were moving towards those dreams and aspirations and wants, you would not be sitting here. You'd be out there doing those things. That's where you'd be. To the point where some people, their families have had to apply to the judicial system to force you legally to look at yourself. And still, it's not me. It's not me. It's the other 60 million people in South Africa. It's the police, it's my parents, it's the 8 billion people on planet Earth, it's the government, it's the rehab, it's the social justice inequality, it's name the excuse. This happened to me, that happened to me. Let me tell you something. Shit happens to everybody on Earth. From the tip of Africa to the furthest corner of Siberia in Russia. Shit happens to people. Not one of us here on this planet put in a request in triplicate, signed off by department heads and approvals to be born. Not one, bro. But here we are. Here we are, 8 billion of us trying to make a way. And you think that by stepping off the field of play and sitting on the bench, you're going to receive the trophy. Some of you are not even on the bench. Some of you haven't even gone to practice. You haven't attended what is the bare minimum to even get on the bench. But you want what the star player is receiving. I always use boxing as an analogy. You watch a guy, world champion, right? Whoever he may be. Get into a boxing ring. He's facing a guy who's the challenger for the world title. He's the champ. It's 12 rounds of boxing. It's 3 minutes a round, 1 minute of rest. It's usually about 45 minutes for that entire thing, right? And you watch that guy step in there, and he loses. He loses. Someone wins, or it's a draw. And he gets paid $100 million. $100 million. Right? Let's say. And the challenger, because he didn't win, gets paid $60 million. Even though it's a draw, the champ gets more. Hey, that's how it works. You want the 100 million, but you're not prepared to get in the boxing ring. And you say, I'll go stand there for 45 minutes. For 100 million, no problem. We all say that. I'll go stand there and get pummeled by Alexander Usyk for 45 minutes for 100 million. Problem is, you're not going to last 30 seconds of the first round. Let's just get that right. And why are you not going to last 30 seconds of the first round? Because you haven't done the 20 years of work it took to get in there and stand there for 45 minutes. Because that's what it takes. It takes 20 years of work and being pummeled in the face 3 times a week and training 4 hours a day for 20 years to be qualified, hopefully, maybe, to stand in the ring for 45 minutes and earn $60 million. So you want the 45 minutes and 60 bar, but you don't want the 20 years of training to get there. and then at the same time has not been prepared to do the 20 years of training to get there, you're blaming everyone along the way. Why are you not going to train? Why are you not getting, you know? This is the problem. And then immediately things don't go your way. You revert to your childhood mechanisms. Your childhood mechanisms. Throw tantrums, scream and shout, and break things until you get your way. Which is your prerogative. It's your prerogative to behave like that. But then don't expect to ever have what the haves have. Let me tell you something. I lived in a life and worked in a life of crime. Do you want to know something about crime? Do you want me to give you the thing you never want to hear about crime? It's harder work than real life. It's harder work than real life. And it's more expensive than real life. Because lawyers cost 10 to 100 grand an hour. Prison is not a lacquer place to be. And if you're going to live a life of crime, you will go to prison for at least a portion of your life. You might look at these guys that are top-level criminals that are, let's say, in government. Many of those guys have already done 10, 15, 20, 25 years in prison. But so on that note, they've studied, they've learned how to do their job properly. They've worked at crime. And now they've become proficient and professors of crime. They got to 20 years training. They went in. They went to the University of Crime, prison, and they learned there from other guys that are doing life and longer sentences that sat them down and said, if you don't want to do life like me, this is how you need to operate. And they got schooled. And then they went out and they failed again. They went back to prison, back to varsity. So you still, even in the world of crime, you want what the top level gangsters have got, but you're not prepared to do the time in prison to get there. There's nothing in life, my friend, nothing, no matter which way you go, whether you want to go the crime way, whether you want to go the legal hard. Well, they're both hard, as I've just said. Crime, I think, is harder. Do you think if I thought that I could make a better life doing crime, I wouldn't be out there now doing crime than what I'm doing now? Real life, compared to the life that you're living, is a breeze, but a breeze. But you don't want to engage. Do you know why you don't want to engage? Because you don't want to work. You don't want to work, but let's call a spade a spade. And taking drugs has given you the perfect excuse not to work. Because I'm sick. And you realize this young, when they started diagnosing you with all these psychiatric disorders that you've now piled onto yourself. Because those disorders give you the reason not to engage and give you the excuse to fail. Which, once again, is your prerogative. You can live like that. But you must understand that whether you choose to live like that or engage and live more comfortably, you're still going to have to live this life. You're still going to have to live it. Now, I know that there's some other bright sparks in the world. We just found one now, 1 block from my house, that decided to hang herself in a tree. Now, There are various religious books that speak to that kind of behavior. Because most proper religions celebrate life. If you're part of a religion that believes in martyrdom and celebrating death, you're in the wrong religion, and you know about whom I speak. Where blowing yourself up and killing other people guarantees you a space in heaven, you are then thoroughly brainwashed, bud. You're going to have to live it. And you're going to have to choose whether you're going to live it in squalor and poverty and in addiction, or you're going to pull your head out of your backside and start striving towards, you might never be a billionaire, but I promise you, working towards being a billionaire will take you 1,000 light years from where you are now. 1,000 light years from where you are now. And what, fascinates me is that I've got middle-aged men sitting here still believing that the way they're living life is acceptable. Acceptable. Relying on their 80 and 90 and 70-year-old parents to look after them. That's the way to live. People who were just like you, your parents were exactly like you. You have their genetic code. That's how you know. We are all alike. Because if we die and they find us lying in the bush and they don't even know what we are, as long as they can get a piece of tissue or a piece of bone, they can put it under a microscope, put it through certain tests, and they can say, this was a human being. Now, why are there rich people and why are there poor people? And why are there people in the middle? I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't matter where you're born or under what circumstances you're born. If you have enough drive and enough ambition, you can get out of poverty. Or you can stay in poverty and blame all the things they give you to blame. We as white guys in South Africa now, we can blame it now on the government. Oh, this black government, it's their fault we're poor. We're poor and we're in poverty. There's white squatter camps now all over the place. Yeah, it's because of BEE and affirmative action and all of that, right? You know it to be true. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No. And then you got the black guys and the colored guys. The only ones not complaining really are the Indianites, right? Because they have taken a different mindset. But the black oaks, the colored oaks, and the white oaks are still using the same reason to fail. The white guys are saying we've been punished because of what our ancestors did in apartheid. That's what they're saying, the poor ones. Right? The ones that refuse to engage. And the black guys are saying, we're still poor because of what your ancestors did to us in apartheid. But you can get in. We can go now, bro. We can get in my bakkie and I can drive 3 kilometers from here, bro. And there's a gated community here called Savannah City, which is vast majority black people living there. And go have a look. What happens when people decide that they're going to engage with life? They're not billionaires, they're not multi-millionaires, but they have a home, they have a vehicle, their kids are in school, they go to work every day, they're engaging with life. You might not agree with the system. I don't agree with the system. The whole world system is corrupt. We all know it. The only reason we're still fighting about color is so that they can separate us and control us. We know it. We all know it. But we are in the system. We don't have a choice. And so we have to look at the system and we have to manipulate the system to empower ourselves as best we can. That's why, even though there's BEE, there's affirmative action, there's all these things, which I'm telling you, I agree with. What? Not the way it's being used, but in principle. If it was being used the way it was supposed to be used, things would be going great in South Africa. Because it's not BEE and affirmative action that's destroying South Africa. It's the way it's being implemented. The whole idea behind it was to bring those people that were oppressed for 300 years into the system so that they could empower themselves and empower this country. But it's been captured by a small group of people who are still keeping those same people, along with more people, down, uneducated, in order to exploit. And a very small portion of people is being enriched. So what do we have to do? We have to make certain changes so that it works properly, right? But even within that thing that is corrupt, people are making it. People are making a success of their lives. People who look at it go, how can I do the best I can do under the current conditions? These are people that think out the box. These are forward-thinking people. And they make it happen for themselves and their families. This is a big contention I have specifically at Walking with Winners. When I say to people, why haven't we done this, and this? The very first words that come out of people's mouths every single time. If I ask any Akia, why are you not making it in life? I promise you, these are the words that are going to come out of almost every Akia. The problem is, that's your problem. There's your problem there. Your first thought is to identify your problems instead of identifying your solutions. When you encounter a problem, your very first thought should be, no matter what it is, a burst pipe. Well, we don't have water. Why don't we have water, guys? Well, the problem is there's a burst pipe. So we don't have water. Let's all be dirty and die of thirst. That's how you think. That is exactly how you've been thinking your whole life. The problem is, the problem is, the problem is. Now the guys that make it go, what is the solution? How do we fix the pipe? Okay, first we're going to have to dig it up. Now we have another problem. The problem is, I don't have a spade. Can't dig it up. Stay dirty, die of thirst. This is why I love. Can we do this, please? There's a series on Netflix called Alone. Please just show the first series. And then there's another show I want the Oaks to watch which is about a South African that's gone to fight in Ukraine. And what I want you to do, this is what I want you to do, because I know if I don't tell you to do it, you're going to fall asleep. I want you to measure yourself and your ambition, let's use the word ambition, to succeed versus these people that you see in these shows. Why are they where they are and why are you not? And I promise you, when you boil it down to the syrup, it's going to be because you refuse to find solutions. If you are sitting within these four walls in this place, your problem is substance abuse issue. Now you've got OCR, they've got all kinds of psychological traumas and blah, blah, blah. And then the problem is I can't solve my addiction issue because of, and then they pull out there, like in the old days, they used to have that thing where you used to keep all your credit cards. And then they roll out all their labels. But this is why, these are all my problems. That's why I can't solve my addiction problem. Let me tell you something. You will never solve one of those problems until you solve your addiction problem. In fact, it's your addiction problem that's causing the vast majority of those issues in your life. You're poor, addiction. You got psychiatric problems, addiction. You got relationship issues, addiction. You're unemployed, addiction. You got no friends, addiction. You've got no money, addiction. You don't have a car, addiction. You don't have a home, addiction. Your parents are excommunicating you, addiction. Solve the addiction, and then you can start working on those other things. I'll never forget. I was at a place in my life where I started believing. In fact, I didn't start believing it. I believed it. That I could not get cured of this problem. Addiction. When you've done the amount of time in rehabs I've done, bud, there's not one of you that's done my time in rehab. I don't think there's anyone you know that's done my time in rehabs. I've done almost 3/4 of a decade just in rehab. And still failed. Now when you get to that place, you start believing. And you believe this thing is unbeatable. When you are facilitating rehabilitation programs and relapse, then you got to know what you start believing about addiction and your ability to overcome and conquer it. If you ever want to give up, that's when you give up. And at one point in this walk, I went to go see a guy who's considered probably the best addiction psychologist in South Africa. You want his name? If you want to go see him, you can tell him I referred you. Because I went to see him twice. And what he said to me in those 2 sessions helped me phenomenally in my walk forward. It didn't help me there on the spot. Further along in my walk, that oak's words came to my mind. You want them? First of all, his name, Dr. Michael Nis. He operates in Melrose. It's not cheap. You better have a medical aid. And the reason I didn't go back is because I thought he was going to have me sectioned into a mental institution. In my cooked up, crack-infused brain, I went there, I smoked the hit in the car, and then I went and saw him. I was sitting in the waiting rooms. Wondering how long this is going to take, because I still got 3 rocks in the car. Both times I went. Sweating like a flipping pig, bro. Do pigs sweat? Does a pig sweat, eh? Doesn't it? Eh? Doesn't it have sweat glands? So what was I sweating like? A horse. A horse sweats. A hippopotamus. Have you seen a hippopotamus sweat? They sweat blood. Huh? What are you telling me? Now I've got to double check. I've got to fact check you here quickly, bro. Does a hippopotamus sweat? Go. Right. No. Hippos don't sweat in the way that most mammals do. Instead, they secrete a thick, oily, red-colored fluid called blood sweat or hipposudoric acid from specialized glands under their skin. This substance, okay, so it's not really blood, but because it's red, we call it blood rot. Can understand why you would say that. The substance acts as a natural sunscreen and antiseptic. You weren't right. You weren't right. But isn't the internet great? Does a pig sweat? I've never seen a policeman sweat blood myself. I'm allowed to make that joke because I'm a former cop. Other people are not allowed.
So, basically what you're saying, some Monday mornings you come here and you want to sweat blood because of all the stress we give you.
No, specifically you. They don't sweat blood, they hang out in mud to cool down. Huh? Bacon. So there's a video that's gone viral now on TikTok of a pig walking in the middle of a pride of lions. And the lions won't eat it. And then, of course, one tunes, is that pig Muslim? No, sorry, are those lions Muslim? Sorry, my bad. Are those lions Muslim? And then the other oak, he must have been a Muslim oak, standing in the background, says, yeah, even they know it's a filthy animal. What? And yet, us, yeah, South Africans, bro, we chow that oak. We love it, but we love those oaks, but yeah, pork belly. Mm-hmm. And that's the worst part of the pig. Where was I? Right. Hey? Dr. Michael, yeah, what he said to me. He said to me, why are you here? Those are quite lekker. What are they? Nikes? Yeah. Adidas, they're quite lekker, eh? Immediately my racist police brain tells me what they used to call shoes like that back in the 80s. But I'll keep it to myself because I don't want to be cancelled. So, that's his butt. So anyway, no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. If you see what... Dookie, I've got a picture of you right here, but... Just came up on the internet. Wanted, dead or alive. No, it's my photos, my recents. You're lucky. So, I said, I'm here for you to help me solve my addiction problem while I was trying to fit my face into a shoebox, right? And he said, understand something. I cannot help you with your addiction. You have to stop taking drugs so that I can help you with your psychological issues. And that's from the best of the best. And that has stuck with me. And I want to tell you that it's the absolute truth. It's one thing that a doctor told me that proved to be 100% absolutely the truth. You will never solve one problem in your life until you stop the medications and the drugs. You cannot continue, or you can. You can. But you cannot continue floating through life high on something. You know, what is the concept? What does the word high mean? When we talk about being high, what do we talk about? Under the influence? What else? Hey? Can't think straight? I like that one. Out of touch with reality. Okay? Okay, so, yeah, sorry? Far away from our problems. Out of your right mind. I like that one also. So if you are relying upon boxes and boxes of prescription medication to get you through the day, how are you then in your right mind? And then, what is your experiential level of life on a day-to-day basis? Are you actually experiencing life? Are you actually facing life? Are you actually dealing with your problems, or are you hiding them under prescription medications, right? And then let's assume for the purposes of the argument, you are hiding them under prescription medications. Then what is the difference between, let's say, pumping yourself full of Dopacol and Zoloft and all these types of things every day, Prozac and whatever else you're taking, right? What is the difference between munching that all day and shooting heroin? If you shoot a shot of heroin, you can feel it and you rush and you bloom. If you hit a rock or tick, you zoom and then you're high, right? You feel it like immediate because it's so powerful and strong, right? The only difference is those drugs are slow release. They release slowly into your mental state. So you don't have that rush aspect of them. And because they come into your system so slowly, you don't feel the changes as markedly as you do when you take street drugs. Why? Because those drugs have been analyzed and operated in laboratories in order for you to not notice the change. When you go onto prescription meds, I know they put me on prescription meds. When I was in a clinical drug rehabilitation facility, they put me on Newsac, right? Okay, which is generic Prozac, right? And they said to me, you will only start feeling the results of this drug in about 14 days. And I took them for about 3 months. But you hear that bird singing. You don't experience these things on these drugs the way you do when you of sound mind. The bird sounds like and your whole mechanism is just dulled down. Everything is dulled down. Your feelings are dulled down. Your experience of life is dulled down. You're not experiencing life the way life is supposed to be experienced. And let me tell you something about life. Yes, there's the hard work, difficult portion of life, absolutely without, but that is what makes the good stuff worth it. This is why, as a criminal, right, takes you, we've hit houses so fast that before the alarm company gets the signal from the alarm, we're already out of there. Telling you. We had all kinds of tricks. Because back then, cell phones weren't a big thing. They were just starting. So if the alarm rang, the house phone would ring. We would answer it. We'd have a guy to answer the phone. And it'd be, hi, this is X security company. I don't want to slight anybody, right? This is X security company. We've just received an alarm. Can we have your code? That's already 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, the microwave, the video machine, and the TV are already loaded. I'm telling you. Then the guy would say, yes, just hold on for me 1 second. I just got to see where my wife put the code. The guy would say, all right, but we are going to dispatch a vehicle in the meantime. And we would say, okay, that's fine. From that moment, we know we've got 3 minutes. Probably more, but 3 minutes. Do you know what you can do in 3 minutes? 3 oaks. Clean it out, put. We're driving down the road and we check the response car coming down behind us into the property. And we're gone. Now we got bucks. Lots of. What's the problem with making money like that? Eventually the fence that used to buy the stolen goods from us, right? Who was a white guy. Okay? Stopped paying us with money. Because he figured in his brain, why must I give them the money which they're going to go and spend at the drug dealer 4 blocks from me? Why don't I make a deal with the drug dealer, buy the drugs cheaper, and make more money off these idiots by giving them half in drugs and half in cash? And that's what started happening. Because we didn't care about spending. I promise you, we made, one day we made a lot of money. I can't remember exactly, but it was, we each walked out of there probably 15 grand up, right? 3 of us, 45 G's we made off the move, right? And that happened a lot. Okay, a lot, bro. And by the following morning, so we each got 15 grand, right? By the following morning, the 15 grand is gone, and we owe the fence each 7, 8 grand. And then that day we don't steal. Then the next day we steal. We go to the fence. He first takes his 7, 8 grand off. And then he pays us what we got on the move. And that fence had oaks coming in and out of his place all day, every day. So you must know what kind of money that oak was turning. We made that guy a multi-millionaire. And the crazy thing is he actually got killed down the road from his house in a driveway for his Rolex. Rolex watch. Crazy, eh? And to be honest with you, even though we were all criminals, he really wasn't a bad guy. He really wasn't a bad guy. He was a criminal, if you understand what I'm saying. But if you were in a bond, he's the guy that would come. Like if we got gripped, he would pay for a lawyer. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was that kind of, okay? Do you get a good criminal? You get criminals with a good heart. You do. You do. Not every criminal out there is stealing because he's a bad guy. That I can tell you right now. He's bad because he's stealing from people who work. I'm not a proponent of crime. You know what I mean? It's a bad thing because people are working hard and you are stealing from them, which is terrible. However, I've seen criminals in situations where I would rather have had that criminal in that situation with me than the CEO of a company. Because the CEO of the company would watch you flip and crumble and die. That oak will save your life. So crime is not the answer. Don't get me wrong. But there are criminals out there. I know criminals, when I was an addict and a criminal, I knew criminals who weren't addicts. All right? There weren't many of them, like 1 in every 100, right? That were actually stealing to put their kids through school and pay for clothing and help their mother and all of that. I do know people like that. So I don't know if that answers your question. You know, doing a bad thing for the right reason doesn't make it right. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like a Robin Hood type deal. But, I don't know. It's a very good question that you pose, actually. It's something that can be debated at length. I was a policeman. I don't believe there's anything like a good criminal, if you understand what I'm saying, till I became a criminal. And I started understanding how these people think and why they do what they do. And I'll tell you what now many years after and long-term thinking about it, criminals do it because they think it's the easy way of living. They think it's an easy way to live. And it's really not. It's the harder way of living. The only positive out of being a criminal is you can get up when you want and you can do what you want whenever you want. That's the only positive. But is that a positive? I don't know. I guess it depends on the individual, But at the same time, every time someone knocks on your door, is it the police? Is it someone coming to kill me? Every car that's behind you is following you. Can't talk on your phone without speaking in codes and riddles because you don't know who's listening. Nothing that you have, you earned. Because you didn't earn it, you stole it. You understand what I'm saying? So you got very little self-respect. And you really don't build much. I mean, I know a guy who was an arch criminal, right? And he was building a house here in the south. And I'm talking about a house, but I went and did the quote on his aluminium at that time. Just the aluminium alone on that house was 1.5 bar. All right? Aluminium windows, showers, frameless showers, what, right? And he built this house. You must check the tiles. I mean, the best, bro. Finish it. And a mansion, bro. The house was probably as big as the center, but a double story, right? Beautiful. If you come down Kliprivier, if you ever come down Kliprivier again, all right, just before you get to Panorama, right at the top. So you come through the south, past Rosettenville, Turfentine on your left, and then Kliprivier splits to go on the highway. As you come over that bridge, you look to your left, the biggest white house you can see up against the koppie there. All right? Some of you will know whose house that was. All right? He didn't sleep one night in that house. Because right before he was supposed to be moving into that house, they got arrested and caught for a major crime in this country. And the asset forfeiture unit took that house because of, listen to this. Are you ready for this? Huh? So they got off the case, all right, through legal mechanisms, all right? But people knew they did the crime and they got paid for the crime. And it was a big amount of money they got paid. And SARS said, that payment for that crime is undeclared income. You didn't pay tax on that. We take in the house. Think about that. Who would have thought that? Huh? You didn't declare your income from crime. You didn't pay tax on your stolen money. We take in your house. What? Huh? That happened. I know some of you are shaking your heads. I was there. I know it happened for a fact because I know the people well. Imagine. You look now currently with these guys that are corrupt and looting and all of that stuff that we all know about. Imagine every single day you must wake up in the morning and lie to 60 million people in order to keep your car. Now you must, huh? Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not easy. If it was easy, we'd be doing it. But you see, some of us have morals and a conscience. And in order to operate like that, there's another video that I watched this weekend. Maybe you folks want to watch it as well, about what the CBD of Joburg looks like at the moment, right? Okay. So if you look at that, right, and you are the government, or you're a person with morals, and you have to drive past that every day, knowing that the car that you're driving in is costing that person living on the street to be living on the street. You've got to have no conscience to be able to live like that. That's why people like Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, these types of individuals, every cent they got, they had other people control that money because they didn't want to be corrupted to the point where they would have to face their conscience for living a certain way when those that are following them are living in a different way. That's the difference. You go back in history and you look at good kings versus bad kings. You know, what started the French Revolution? Who knows? Any of you know? You're in school now. What started the French Revolution? Where was it's not history, but it's not just history. Okay, let's do politics. Where was democracy born? Where's the first place democracy was born? Where does the idea of democracy come from? From the French Revolution. That's what overthrew monarchies in Europe. And that's where the democratic system began. They tried to do it in Rome, but the emperor still had the last call, the Caesars. True democracy started with the French Revolution. When the kings of France and the queen, specifically Marie Antoinette, Louis XVI, were starving their people and taxing their people to the point where people couldn't survive. Is it starting to sound familiar? And the people then revolted against that system. And those people ended up with their heads in a basket. They got guillotined. That's where the guillotine was invented as well. Because the guillotine at that time was the fastest way to execute a large number of people publicly. You could probably hang more people in one go, but they wanted a show of it. They chopped your head off. And then the banner for that was liberty, justice, and democracy. We want a government by the people, for the people, voted in by the people. That's the first time ever. That's why you got to know. So you support democracy in South Africa, but you don't know where it comes from. You support, let's say, Marxism and socialism, right? You like that idea. Marxism and socialism, right? Communism, in other words, right? Where was that born? Who was Karl Marx? Who was Joseph Stalin? And who was Lenin? The architects of modern communism. Who were they? What Jewish oaks, but did you know that? What Jewish oaks? Yeah. So Spain was one of the first countries where there was a socialist government in Europe. But there was a revolution there also to overthrow it. These are systems they're designed to enslave. But anyway, we're not going to do politics now. You got to figure out now, in the system that you're in now, how you're going to succeed. How are you going to succeed if you are not willing to engage? People say to me about guys that are here on the program, so-and-so is looking so great, he's doing so well. Someone said it to me yesterday about someone here. I said, this is not the test. You are not in the test now. This is the university. This is where we're trying to teach you what you need to know in order that you can go and face the enemy. And the enemy is the system. The whole mission is to try and beat the system, but you can't beat the system if you're not in the system. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Because the system is designed that way. And the system is called, either you can use different names for it, civilization or society. And if you don't live according to the system kicks you out. Like a virus. So on Saturday morning, we had a little ride here in the south on our dirt bikes, up in the koppies there, around Turfentine there, you know what I mean? There's koppies there beyond the Silver Ball and that, yeah, in the south. And we went riding there, and then we stopped at this very well-known cafe there, okay? Right there, as you come up, it becomes Verona Street into the south. There's a cafe there, the garage and what, around the corner, right? And we stopped there, and we just, JP and I each had a lolly. For energy. No, we had a Super M. But the Oaks buy like Russian rolls and all kinds of cuck there, right? Place is well known. And I was literally off my bike for 2 minutes. Literally 2 minutes. I got off my bike, took my helmet off. I said to JP, please get me a Super M. He went in. I turned around. I was hitting my vape. I walked up a bit on my vape. And I came up to me with his prop. He was on his prop, you know. His prop was a crutch today, okay? Oh, I was just wondering, don't you? I said, no, I don't. I said, I've got enough of you oaks that I have to see every day of my life. Leave me alone. I did, eh? Oh, you oaks, you know, like that. You know, entitled. You know, you must give him something because he's now got a crutch, okay? And then I turned around and I walked down, and about 10 minutes after that, another properly dirty, you can check, drug addicts. But people say, oh, you're judging people. Bro, if it looks like a dog, smells like a dog, pisses like a dog, barks like a dog, chances are it's a dog. And I still tune. There's another out there, recovering addict. I don't want to mention his name because he might watch this and he'll get upset. Right? Who has built an unbelievable business in the last 10 years. Unbelievable business. And I tuned him as I was standing there, because he was standing by his bike. I tuned him, check here. He tunes, yes, this put. That was me not too long ago. I tuned, yeah, remind me again why we rather ride KTMs and don't smoke lollies, but. He tunes, yeah, no, bro, that's it right there. That's it right there. He tunes, guess what? I'm going to be happy to go to work on Monday. You know, and I'm happy to have my problems. And I'm happy to deal with the shit I have to deal with, as long as I'm not in that position. And you got to make that call, bro. Because if you don't operate within the system, that's going to be you, bud. The system will kick you out. And you'll live on the outside of the system, looking in. You have to work in the system to beat the system. And you can never truly beat the system. But you can manipulate the system for your own benefit. For your own benefit. Without being dirty, well, you're not manipulating the system there. The problem is, you know, that you bring that up, is that guy 100% believes he's free. And we all idiots. I know, I used to think like that. I'll close with a story. Older guys have heard the story 100 times. Newer guys, here's the story. Me and my mate, check, JP's going to start laughing the minute he hears the story because he's heard it 1,000 times. Me and my mate have been cracking it up for like 2 or 3 days, right? We're on the end of the binge salty cracks, right? It's middle of summer, somewhere in December or January, I would estimate. And we're driving in a Nissan Langley that's made up of 7 Nissan Langleys. It's got a red fender here and a green fender there and a white bonnet. And all 3 wheels actually, all 4 wheels are a different size and a different width. And we can't roll up the windows and put them down because there's no window handles. The windows are held up with clothesline pegs stuck in the door. And it's about summer, early morning, probably about, it's peak hour traffic. So it's 7:30 in the morning, and the sun is starting to blaze down already. And we're coming up Jan Smuts Drive on our way to Hillbrow to score. And we're there by Jan Smuts just before the highway, before you go into Bromfontein, before you go down to Empire Road. And we're going to now turn left to go up towards Joburg Hospital to Hillbrow, right? And we're both sweating, and we got a few crumbs on the dashboard, and I don't know, one of us, it's our heat. And we're sitting there, but it's like the third day, so you're not paranoid anymore, you just flipping cooking, right? And you don't want to open the window because you're busy melting on the rock. You don't want to blow the stuff off. You don't want to blow it off the dashboard. You know, because you already know you're going to spend the next 4 days looking for the stuff that did blow off the dashboard. And this oak pulls up next to us, but at the traffic light. In a 328R convertible, cabriolet. At that time, it was the E36, right? Spotless, 328. Blood red. White leather. Top down. Music going. I just got on that time, what you would class now, 2,000 Rand, 3,000 Rand shirt. 1,000 Rand tie pin. Ray-Bans, gold, aviators, but the square one. I'll never forget, bro. Looked like something, could have been a Breitling or something on his arm. Proper watch. Like a thin gold chain in this, thin gold, elegant gold chain. His hair, bro, I think each hair was individually cut. Like a blonde oak, a blonde oak with that like perfect haircut. You could almost smell his 10,000 Rand cologne through your closed window, right? The oak is styling, but obviously on his way to Bromfontein to some office there, or he's a doctor or something. He's somebody, definitely, right? And here sit the two junkies, me and my wife, Beta. My mate sweating our balls off, haven't washed in 3 days, fighting over this much left of a crack pipe that's broken 20 times. And we look at this oak and my bra tunes, check this dose. I'm sure he's gay. And I'm sitting there scheming, meanwhile I'm scheming, yes, right now, I wish I was gay. We're going to score rocks, he's on his way to work. He's got it all. We got nothing. He's the mukhu, we're the heroes. That's from my own life, but that's a true story. This is the problem, Ox. This is your problem. Right there. You want the 328. You want the lacquer haircut. You want the nice shirt and the watch and everything. Imagine what the Oak's house looks like. He's coming from there, Parkhurst, Parktown, there, those areas, Greenside, those areas, they stilt it. How did he get it? First thing is he don't smoke crack. He might catch a line or three sometime in the week. Who knows? You don't know. But whatever he's doing something right, but he's doing something you're not doing. He's on his way to work. Wherever he works, he's obviously got some kind of qualification to do that job. In other words, he got an education. That's where it starts. That's what you're doing here. You're getting educated on how to beat your problem. This whole lesson is one of those lessons in how to beat your problem. You have to start understanding that success and I'm closing with it. This is my tagline for this lesson. Success is born out of sacrifice. If you're not prepared to sacrifice your time, sacrifice your energy, sacrifice all kinds of things to get to success, forget about it. If you want to take drugs and party and sit on your ass all day and sacrifice nothing, the only thing you've sacrificed is everything for your drugs. What's it? JP brought it up with me the other day. I would rather sacrifice my drugs for everything than sacrifice everything for my drugs.
Amen.
That's the choice you got to make. That's the choice you got to make. And then when you've made the choice, then you got to start kicking into gear and supporting the choice with action. You can make as many decisions as you want. If you don't support them with action, you'll get nowhere. All right? Lekker. Done. We've got 3 lekker ones to